Now to today's focus, and we're previewing today a massive sporting decision which is due to be taken tomorrow, in fact. The International Athletics Federation will decide if Russian athletes will be able to take part in the Rio Olympic Games in August. Well, Russia, of course, at the centre of the world's largest ever doping scandal. Politicians, coaches and athletes accused of involvement in falsifying samples and blackmailing sportsmen. So will the reforms introduced in Russia be enough to allow the country's athletes to go for gold? This from our Moscow correspondent, Marcel.
Here in the Moscow suburb of Zhukovsky, a major championship is underway. It's an annual event, but for the first time, Russian athletes are competing alone. This year, no sportsmen have come from overseas. Since it was excluded from the International Athletics Federation, the IAAF, Russia can no longer organise international competitions or take part in them. These champions have done months of training for the Olympic Games in Rio, and the atmosphere here is heavy.
A lot of us here are wondering if it wouldn't be a good idea to go and find a job. Others are thinking about leaving. For me, well, I have no idea. It's difficult, really difficult, and we're sad.
In the stands are some who've played a role in Russia's huge doping scandal. Valentin Maslakov, who resigned as coach of Russia's athletics team. And that's Tatiana Ferova, who won silver in the 400-metre relay at the 2008 Olympics in Beijing. She stands to lose that medal because her samples from those games have just been tested again. The tests came back positive.
You want me to believe that in other sports, in other countries, they train without using products that allow athletes to improve their performance and their recovery times. A normal human being can't train 2 times a day and keep up that level of exertion.
So you're saying it's impossible to achieve high-level results without doping substances?
Olympic-level results are impossible without doping. Why else do you think so many past records are now being cancelled?
A level of openness rare in Russia. Meanwhile, the authorities are doing all they can to restore their image. Russia's sports ministry has even taken on an American PR company. Today, these specialists are taking the foreign press to visit the Russian anti-doping laboratory. The very same one that had its accreditation withdrawn by WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency.
Here are the samples of urine kept from 2014 and 2015. We're now waiting for the WADA's decision regarding these samples. Either we'll send them to an accredited laboratory abroad, or, if WADA authorizes us to, we'll use them, adhering to the procedures in force.
For the time being, though, the Russian laboratory's out of action. Its former head, Grigory Rodchenkov, resigned after WADA accused him of manipulating samples. Then he fled to the US. WADA also says that while Rodchenkov was there, the FSB, Russia's secret services, controlled the lab. Marina was just an employee there at the time. Now she's under strict instructions not to speak about her former boss.
Комментировать поступки Григория Михайловича я не хочу с теми несоответствиями, которые были выдвинуты ВАДой 9 ноября 2015 года, мы согласны.
Каким образом это тогда происходило? То есть, если...
Все вопросы Григория Михайловича. Другие сотрудники ровно знают столько же, сколько и я. То есть ничего.
То есть он единственный человек, который знает что-либо про это?
Ну, либо знает, либо не знает, да.
Ну, предполагается, что кто-то знал, что это происходит в этой лаборатории, да? Я с
сотрудниками разговаривала, наши сотрудники ничего не знают. Пойдемте дальше, я покажу вам.
The civil servants keep their silence because this scandal's tarnished the highest levels of state. At the Brazilian embassy in Moscow, the ambassador has put on a presentation of the Olympic Games.
Добро пожаловать в Paris.
Delegates from Russia's Olympic Committee are among those invited. We decided to speak to Igor Kazakov, who's in charge of the Russian team's participation at the Games in Rio.
Только про допинг не надо, ладно? Без допинга, давайте обойдемся.
In front of the camera, he keeps it brief.
I'd prefer it if we spoke about more positive things. In any case, right now we shouldn't be focusing on problems that concern only a minority of athletes. Because yes, those who are linked to doping shouldn't participate in the games.
We then tried to speak with Igor Hatochkin, in charge of international relations for Russia's Olympics Committee. Do you think it's really possible to resolve such a large, significant problem?
Но она же эта проблема не создавалась в один год, правильно? Она создавалась десятилетиями. Ее очень сложно решить за 3 месяца.
These officials wouldn't tell us any more. The IAAF will announce tomorrow whether or not Russia's efforts are enough to allow its athletes to participate at the Olympic Games. In the meantime, Fyodor Shutov continues to train.
Пока все ровно.
Newly crowned as Russia's marathon champion, Fyodor continues to set record times, but his chances of going to Rio are slim. That's because the IAAF hasn't included him in its pool of athletes which take the anti-doping tests obligatory for the Games.
The Olympic Games are the ultimate goal. It's a live stream for an athlete. That's where the real competition is, where you really fight to be the best. The next Games are in 4 years, and I don't even know if I'll still be in the running.
Now, though, Russian athletes can do little but wait for the final decision and hope the IAAF won't stop them all competing in Rio.